Thanks everybody for coming. An RPS event. The significance of this for real estate is obviously that EV chargers are on real estate. So we've got Kwame Ofori here. He is a EV specialist and has juicy power. He's going to be presenting to us today. Share with us, Kwame, what you got. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it as a committee.
Hey, Matthew, thank you for the opportunity. I am very excited to be here to share with you a few tenets about EV charging with multifamily properties. Now, other business owners can also listen to this, but our focus today is going to be multifamily properties and how they can take advantage of offering EV charging amenities to their patrons and in order to kind of enhance their profitability. What are my passion in terms of I should say interest here, so I'm excited to talk to you guys. All right, we'll get started here. So first we'll talk about like, okay, what's Juicy Power? And I guess who's this guy that's presenting? So Juicy Power is a Georgia-based EV charger consulting, installation, management, and operations company. We're also DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, certified in the state of Georgia. Our focus is creating solutions for local and premium EV charging within and near improving Georgia community. I myself, I've got over 20 years of experience in the automotive, the electrical, and transportation engineering and strategy industry. We got a little feedback going on. Get that going. Thank you. And our team has over 50 years of electrical contracting experience. All right. So, are you a multi-property manager or owner? So if you're somebody that owns like a multi-family unit, say a four-family flat, whether it's a 40 family or a 40 unit building, um, you could definitely benefit from providing EV chargers to your residents. Typically, I talk to folks and they have a couple of thoughts about adding EV chargers. Most people are generally familiar with what an EV charger is. They might not know exactly how it works, but they kind of know that they're the new electrical power supply for new types of vehicles, EVs, as well as plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. And the typical thing that we also hear is that business owners are interested in increasing the revenue or increasing their annual operating profit. And that's where we come in. We try to help with that. Some of the questions that we have, will EV chargers actually help my business? What's my actual initial investment going to cost me? And what's my operational spend going to be year over year? How can I save money? I mean, where are the incentives? What can I do? And how can I get started? So we'll go through those things. Those are the main four things we'll go through today. So here's a quick 1 minute charging overview just for your familiarity. So there's three types of EV charging: level one, level two, and level three. And you can see the different voltages that are associated with that. Your 120 volt is basically your typical wall outlet that you might find in your bathroom. You can plug an electric car into it, but it's probably going to take about a day or so to charge fully after you plug it in. So that's your slowest type of charge. It's got the least type of power or least amount of power. The second level is level two charging. That's for most multifamily properties. They usually install that type of charging. Those are the chargers that you usually see on the wall that are designated that have kind of the thick cord that comes down and is able to plug into the cars themselves. So the average time to charge those cars using one of those, or the average stay time, I should say, probably about 1 to 4 hours. And sometimes it can cost around anywhere between 500 to 10K to install a charger. In level three, the fast chargers, those are the ones that you'll see on the side of the highway in their own little parking lot. And you'll see people essentially plugging in, or if you've ever been to Atlantic Station, you'll see those fast chargers as well too, down on the second and third levels of the parking deck. Those are the super fast chargers, very complicated pieces of equipment. but also doable if you've got the right use case. They'll charge your tenants up, or excuse me, your visitors up within 5 to 45 minutes, but they've also got a 10x spend associated with it. So the big thing to remember between level one, level two, and level three chargers is that your location and your use case matters. So those are things that you'll want to consider with an expert when you're deciding which level of charging to apply to your location. And just to buff it, we've also got a little video here that explains it in a little bit more of a visually appealing form.
First off, there are three types of technologies used in EV charging stations: level one, level two, and level three. Level two and three are probably the ones that we're talking about here. Level one is a charging using a 120 volt standard outlet. It might take a day to charge an electric vehicle. Level two uses a 240 volt outlet and can charge an electric vehicle in about 4 to 8 hours. Level three, though, is known as DC fast charging. It uses high voltage DC connection and can charge a car in 30 minutes or less. So level threes are the kind of places that you might stop on a long road trip or while you're out, keep things juiced up a little bit. And they require a larger footprint and more complex infrastructure due to those higher power requirements.
All right.
First,
So what you're looking at mostly as a multifamily property owner is a level two charging solution. So we're going to focus on that today. So we talked about what level two is, and we are going to talk about where it's going to. Level two charging, according to like the federal government, according to like the Energy, Department of Energy and Department of Transportation, is the fastest growing charging in the U.S. As of February of this year, there were more than 60,000 publicly accessible charging stations with level two or level three charging. And within 4 years, this is more than double the stations that were in 2020. So it's increasing at a pretty geometric rate there. Charging utilization, level two charging was at an average of 14.5%. That's an increase of 9% from July 2023. So you can see out of the cars that are actually being charged, more and more of that charging is being in level two. Here we show a chart that shows the trend of sales for battery electric vehicles. Those are full electric vehicles, your Teslas, the ones that don't have an internal combustion engine in them. You can see that the rate is increasing in terms of sales, and the BEV sales rate to reach about 2.1 million by about 2030. Here's another chart that shows that PHEV, those are your plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, as well as your battery electric vehicles, those sales should reach about 5 million yearly by 2030. And you can see where it came from in 2021 and the growth rate geometric as well there too. So it's a trend that you really want to jump on or at least be aware of and have in your strategic plan moving forward for your business. So, main question, can electric vehicle chargers make my business more successful? Can they drive more revenue? Can they drive more profit? Can they drive more traffic to my business, to my multifamily property? And the answer to that, it depends. Once again, if you have a 4 unit property versus a 4 unit property, some of your expectations in terms of profit might be different. Do you have retail that's involved with your property as well too? Say if you have a property that's got 100 units upstairs in the retail ground floor, you're dealing with different use cases. So we'll talk about that. Some of the common reasons that we hear, we'd like to drive traffic. So, we'll want to provide a free amenity to visitors. One of the things I tell people is that your average level two charger just is the same amount of cost to your business as providing free coffee. So you can think of people that stay longer, that buy more, people that also have perhaps a moderately higher level of income, those types of customers or those types of tenants staying at your property or staying at your property longer with that. Also, we'd like to create a profit stream. Depending on the demand at your location, that might be feasible in order to have actual revenue, cash revenue coming in per charge. We'd like to attract or retain your tenants. Replacing your tenants can also, that's an expense. Anytime you lose a significantly tenured tenant at your business, that's an expense to you. So if that tenant stays, say, an additional month, or stays or renews their lease because they have access to electric vehicle charging, that's a benefit to your multifamily properties, a benefit to your business, and increasing your property value. So basically, you've already got this fixed installation at your property. So that means that if you were to sell your property, that's something else that the next property owner doesn't have to do. And plus, it can add some type of intrinsic value to your property as well, too. So, how can you determine your success profitability? Well, you can do a couple things. Number one, take action. Decide whether your goals for your electric vehicle charging amenity are going to be indirect profit. That's more traffic, your tenants staying longer. You're able to like provide increased value to your tenants, so perhaps you're able to charge more rent or increase your property value. Or you can go with direct profit goals, which are, for instance, let's just say you have an open area or an open neighborhood where it's very likely that other people that are outside your building or outside your property might want to come to your property to charge. For instance, if you have like a popular retail establishment and as part of your property. So in that situation, direct profit goals should be something that can be talked about, planned with as part of a sound business plan. So what use cases will they support? Got to think about that. Is it primarily tenant overnight charging? Do you have a parking deck where people are able to securely park or not securely park? And are they mostly charging overnight so they can get to work the next day? Group charging. Group charging is where you have a bank of electric vehicle chargers. Let's just say you have 4 electric vehicle chargers, which anyone at your property can use. Anybody who's a resident, anybody who's a worker there. And as a community, you share those set of chargers, that bank of chargers. So that's another use case. Personal assigned charging. We've seen cases where group charging wasn't the solution. And let's just say you have a set of condos or a set of apartments, and you're able to install chargers specifically for specific residents. So there's solutions that, you have to think about how you're going to bill that, how you're going to like wire that, and how you're going to charge that to your residents and customers. So personal aside charging, you can also call that deeded charging as well too. That's an option as well. And then we've also talked about visitor charging. Visitors are people that do not reside at your property, but they come by, whether they're shopping in the area, and they charge at your property as well too. Depends on your use case, but you're able to sometimes have electric vehicle chargers that can service both tenants as well as visitors as well too, if you configure it right. The hardware can do that. So also, things you have to think about as well too. Payment methods. How are people actually going to pay for charging? There's 2 main methods if it's public. One is plug and charge. And plug and charge essentially means when the connection is made between the charger and the vehicle that's parked and charging, there is a network communication that transfers between the car and the charger and the cloud that identifies the driver, or excuse me, the car, the credit card that's associated with that card's charging account and automatically bills that card for the amount of power that is transferred to the vehicle. So that's plug and charge explained very simply. Second option is that you can also have a credit card reader that's actually on you know, on your EV charger. Now you can have that, but some of the risks are that is that they're universal, but they can also break too. So you can be down for a particular period of time if the credit card reader fails to operate. So mostly people prefer a plug and charge, and that's where most of the solutions are going now. Charging locations. Most charging coming up is going to be at home and work. That's 80% of charging. Public charging for less common trips. So, will they help your business? How much will they cost? You're thinking about your initial investment and then your operational spend. How much year over year? How much will be your initial investment? Like you said, your initial investment could be as little as $1,000, or it could be more than that, depending on, you know, what type of infrastructure you have at your property, whether you're going to need electrical upgrades, how far your chargers are going to be from your electrical panels or panels, I should say, as well as like your usage. So one of the stories that we like to say is if your tenant or employee just stays one extra year because they have access to charging security at your place, I mean, how much is that going to save you? So one extra year, I mean, instead of like finding a new tenant, they're still there. So that place is, you're getting rent for 2 months, 2 more months because of that from that particular tenant. I mean, depending on your property, that could be $2,000 to $4,000 right there. So you just don't think of it in terms of how much I can make per volt, but how much steadier your business becomes because you're offering something, a utility to your tenant. So upfront costs. Some of the things that we consider with upfront costs. Is there adequate power supply? Is there enough electrical capacity available? And we'll talk about those two things. For instance, if you've got a 240 volt panel and it's completely full, you may need an electrical upgrade in order to be able to supply power to, for new chargers. Are you able to support the installation cost independently? We're talking about funding too. Or do you need incentives in order to help you out? Do you need to actually finance what you're doing? So that depends on like how much it costs, where you place the chargers, and what your budget is. So that's something that you have to think about as well too. Sometimes, depending on the community, the budget can be low. And then you're thinking about doing, some group charging. And it might be very simple, maybe like a couple of level two chargers. But if you have like more to invest and you have like an eye on the long run, say like, hey, I want to future-proof my entire garage, then you have to be able to like think about that as part of your decision-making process on whether to move forward. And that comes down to after you install, do you have a sustainable EV charging business plan? There is several things you can do with that. For instance, you might think about charging residents a flat rate per month um, in order to have access to a charger. Let's just say it was $50 a month and you're able to charge as much as you want. So you predict how much a vehicle is going to need. Let's just say if it was 30 days of charging at its maximum, and you ensure that your rate that you charge per resident is more than that in order to secure a profit. So that's one way of doing it. Number two, you can bill per voltage as well too. So, and also you can also bill per per kilowatt hour that's actually produced by your charger. So there's multiple ways of creating a business plan that can sustain operations. A lot of, I should say, clients can make the mistake of installing the charger and not having a sound business plan to support it. And that's where they get some negative experience from it. But if you have a sound business plan, if you have assistance in creating that, that's the key to your success. Okay, couple quick terms you should also know regarding what I just said. Tiered pricing. You can price your kilowatt hours that are dispensed. Those are units of power. You can price that for people who are part of your community versus people who are not part of your community. You can also charge idle fees to make sure that your unit is serving the maximum amount of drivers possible, and somebody's not sitting there and clogging your unit while it's uncharged, while not charging, I should say. And that helps you maximize time and utilization. It helps encourage desired customer behavior. You want to avoid unintended consequences, such as putting your chargers in a safe place. So there's some thoughts and ideas regarding that. If somebody abuses your your unit, you're able to, on the back end, restrict that person from using your charger again. Some of the things you might want to think about when you're also creating that business plan is if you need to tow somebody, let's just say you have an abandoned vehicle that just parks right in front of your charger. What are you going to do with that? And also having contracts with your maintenance and operations supplier. So having a service level agreement that tells you what the time to resolve is going to be um, in terms of like, okay, how are you going to manage and maintain that charger year over year? How are you going to change prices, dynamic pricing if needed? And how are you going to enforce these contracts as well too? Let's just say if a service level agreement is not met, or if something is not maintained, what happens? What are the consequences? So those are things that you'll also want to have like in a contract as well too with whatever provider you choose. And of course, something that's always on our mind, saving money. As you know, incentives are available. They're still going through 2027 as planned. One of the things that we have as a reference is on our Juicy Power channel. We have a video that kind of explains some of the incentives that are available to businesses in Georgia, including multifamily property owners, in order to install EV chargers, get rebates, get tax rebates that are that are able to defray your cost. And also, you can also attend any upcoming Juicy Power webinar. We roll them out pretty regularly. We did like about 6 this year. So we'll do more in the upcoming future. So follow us on our social media platforms. Join our newsletter community in order to learn more. So how can you get started? Weigh your options, contact an expert. We have those at Juicy Power. And you can also use one of our online revenue estimators as well too. Here's a little bit about our process from beginning to end. As you can see, we go from onboarding to a consultation. We give you an estimate. We do an on-site assessment, and that's followed by a full analysis and estimate. After that, we do a contractual agreement with you, some project planning that occurs. We acquire the equipment, do the permitting, installation and commissioning, and then there's finally after installation, operations, management, and maintenance. So if you want to use the Juicy Power Estimator, if you got a smartphone, go ahead, get the camera out, scan the QR code that's on the screen. It'll give you a rough estimate of what what your business could possibly make. Not giving some of the factors that, hey, might be unique to your location, like we talked about. But what are some of the possibilities that you could earn using installing electric vehicle chargers. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to a link. Should be a link tree that has the estimator under one of those buttons that you'll see vertically. Okay, leave that up there for a second. All right, and move on. So there you go. And that's what it does. It allows you, as a leader, to instantly calculate possible EV charging revenue for your organization. And does that as well too. So thank you for your time.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So for all those who've come, one of the things I want to put this in perspective for you is this is something not only for people who have brick and mortar, but if you know someone, we've got a fellow chamber member here that we really are trying to support. And when we say support, we don't mean do a favor. We mean, share this information with other business owners, other multifamily owners, because if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me, Kwame, by 2050, it's going to be mandated that we're all driving electric cars. So this is, this isn't the gold rush, but it's next to it. And I don't think that people are really understanding what's coming down the pipeline. So that's what we try to offer is more information.